in your bio when you talk about it, it took you 8 years from the moment you realize that something's off to actually take that leap.
Yes.
Why did it take 8 years?
Most of us delay making decisions that feel aligned because we're scared. We don't have the clarity of what is it that we want. And therefore, because we don't have that clarity, anything that seems like it's good, we don't have a framework to analyze, like, why is it good for us?
Yeah.
And how to make that transition. So only when we get that clarity of what we really want and we embrace it, like, this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what I want, and you own it, then those transitions become a lot easier.
Hi, this is JP Newman of Fulfillionaire, and today I have Cruz Gamboa with us. Cruz was your absolute corporate dream. Imagine working for GE Capital as a top financial executive for 22 years, climbing the ladder, getting to the very top, billions of dollars a year of placement, and your body says, I can't do it another day. But what does he do? He knows his health is declining, his soul is declining, but when you have so much prestige and identity, it's hard to leave. But after 8 years, he did and followed his mission. And what you're gonna learn from this is how so many companies, including yours potentially, are following the wrong numbers and the wrong metrics. What numbers are you sacrificing? What numbers are you focusing that's telling you your success metrics? And what if we challenge you in the next 30 minutes that perhaps there's better numbers that will predict not only your ultimate success in your business, but also your success in life? Enjoy the episode. You're going to learn a lot. We are going to try. They want JP to be just a little bit shorter. So you are now in on the new format. Let us know what you think with your comments. And I can't think of a better person to start this new format out, Cruz, than with you. I feel like we don't know each other that well yet, but in our first 15 minutes, I know we share the mission of truly creating fulfillment with money from a very sophisticated standpoint.
Yeah, absolutely. And just great to be here. What an honor. And what an honor to be sort of in the new format of the show.
Yeah, thank you.
Let's see how that goes.
So if somebody's jumping up and down after 30 minutes, that means we went too long. So we'll have to see what we can do. You know, one of the things I was really interested in, and it's actually interesting that makes your story unique for me, is here you were in the middle of like corporate America, working for GE, big finance jobs. And it'd be very easy to stay in the seduction life of that. It's one thing as an entrepreneur, but here you were for 25 years, primarily working from what I understand for Latin American countries, big jobs, easily easy to stand. I'm sure it was very cushy. I've worked for corporate America. I'm sure you're flying first class. You're doing the whole thing. And then you have an epiphany right in the middle of an $800 million transaction that maybe this isn't for me. I really would love to explore that story for you, but it's very rare to find someone who gets that successful in corporate America and then has this epiphany that I've got a bigger life mission than just this, and willing to leave that life and take a chance on what you built now, which we're going to chat about. So I'm really interested to kind of hear your story. If I can start, like, here you became, remind me your title, were you CFO or were you just like one of the top financial guys?
So I mean, I've had several titles working for over 22 years at GE. I've, rotated in different assignments, but when I was in that job specifically, I was capital markets leader for Latin America. And my job was primarily to secure financing for big projects in the region for the infrastructure side of the business, because we had an issue where most projects were getting stalled. They weren't really moving forward because of lack of financing. Mm-hmm. So they brought me in because I had, I spoke Spanish and I had the sort of the capital markets strain from GE Capital to help the company just close more deals.
Incredible. How did that go?
Well, we closed a couple of big, huge deals. We really put the region back on the map. Because for a while, I mean, you know that infrastructure goes in cycles, right?
Sure.
So for a while, Latin America just sort of like fell behind because of lack of investments. You had recession, all different things. And then eventually you started seeing like Mexico was picking up, then Brazil was getting stronger, Peru and all of those other countries. It started to sort of like create more infrastructure, putting more power, because now they were growing, you need power to grow.
Yeah.
And they needed a lot of, infrastructure built up. And that's where, the company just sort of like rode that wave. And we were able to do probably over like $10 billion in total in the span of like a cycle of like 5-6 years.
It's incredible. I want to go one step on because I want to hear how you got to that $10 billion. So I know you went to UT.
Yes.
Where were you born? Where were you raised?
Originally in Venezuela.
In Venezuela. So Venezuela, Was UT your first American? Did you grow up in the States after Venezuela?
No, I came when I was like 17. So
Were you a finance major at UT?
I was an economics and business as a minor. So I wasn't really sure what I wanted to do.
I was going to say, what drove you to go into UT? What drove you to be, my son, by the way, is economics to UT.
Yeah.
What drove you to even go to UT? What was the ambition? Like, what were you thinking that was going to lead to when you did it?
So I initially, like my first year in college, I went to Lewis and Clark College, and I was studying economics as well. But it was just like Northwest, like it was rainy all the time. The weather is not the great.
Not for a Venezuela guy.
Exactly, and I was just like, I'm pretty miserable. And I actually went to visit a friend of mine who was going to the school of I think like petroleum engineering. And here in Austin, and I was just like, I totally fell in love with Austin. I'm like, I want to move here. Like, when I got back, I said, I applied for a transfer, and within 6 months, I was already here. So it happened like really quick.
Yeah.
Once I had the clarity. So that's how I got here.
So you guys are clear in Austin. What gave you the clarity that you wanted to get into the finance world with capital placement and financial? Like, what got you there? Was that since you were a kid? Was that an ambition? Like, what drove that for you?
I think it's like, there's like not one thing, but I mean, I was a numbers guy, right? As an economist. And my first job out of college, I worked for Unilever as a finance manager. And I got really deep into like budgeting and forecasting and profitability analysis and all of that cool stuff that finance people do.
Yeah.
Yeah. By the way, I'm joking.
Listen, some people love it. It's an art. It's a puzzle.
Yeah, and then you know what I realized? I was just like, this is great, but I think there's an aspect to this where if you don't connect all of these numbers with business strategy, it just feels kind of like off. And I didn't really have the frameworks to be able to like understand like what I wanted to do. And when I got into GE, I heard about GE Capital, and I heard that they were doing like multi-million-dollar like loans and equity investments and all of that. And I was just like, that sounds like, I don't know, that just drew me. It's like, I'm interested. And I started talking to people at GE Capital. And at first I didn't really know how I would transfer. And then I started like networking and going to the events. And then fast forwarded a couple of years, I was at GE Capital, which was sort of like
based out of where?
At that time it was Norwalk, Connecticut.
Oh, Norwalk, Connecticut.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question. What were some of the best perks when you were at GE? Because I worked for Sony Pictures and I had incredible perks. What were your best perks?
Well,
as a corporate executive, you got 10 billion place, money's flowing. Tell us some of the best parts of that.
Well, literally, like one of the best perks is that nobody really told me what to do.
Right.
I had my objectives. And I could like easily...
And they left you alone.
They left me alone. They're like, we need to close $1 billion and I'm like, okay. So, it's like, oh, I'm going to travel to Mexico. I'm going to travel to Brazil. And I didn't have to ask for permission for anything. I would take my clients to any restaurant.
Any restaurant, any glass of wine, any cigar.
Within boundaries.
Right.
But yeah, pretty much.
My CFO at Sony, he used to say, don't be nefarious with your expense account.
Yeah.
Because I'd come back and it'd be, fly first class on Virgin Airlines and south of France. I got to do all that stuff.
Yeah.
It's pretty fun.
Yeah.
So let me ask you a question, Chris. So you're living the good life. You're placing $1 billion a year on a 10 billion thing. You're no real boss. It sounds like I'm sure you're making a pretty good salary and budgets and all that. So what started going for you like, maybe this isn't for me? It sounds like you won. I mean, people would envy the fact that you got there's lots of people with super boring finance jobs. And this doesn't sound like it was necessarily a boring finance job. It sounds like you had a lot of entrepreneurism with it. So what was the turning point for you? Like, I'm not sure that this is for me. Yeah.
I mean, I think it's like, I think you've read my story a little bit. It all started because it's not like one day I had the epiphany and I need to change. It took a little bit of time.
Yeah.
For me, it just came together when I had just closed this $800 million transaction. I literally spent probably 4 to 6 months working nonstop. And I'm talking Saturdays, Sundays, 10, 12-hour days. And then always on the phone, not being really present at home. And, my kids were still young at the time. And my relationship started to get really difficult to the point that now in hindsight, I know for a fact that I was just, in a way, I was sort of escaping the sort of the conflict that was brewing at home by working more.
Yeah.
Okay. Subconsciously, I wasn't doing it on purpose.
Sure. I think it's pretty common.
It's pretty common.
I think that happens.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's, honestly, it became like, I know people don't really associate, working hard with an addiction, but it can become an addiction.
100%.
Right.
Yeah.
And I was addicted to, the rush of closing deals, the recognition, me going to the clients who were like millionaires and whatever, and like be talking, one-on-one with them as an equal.
Sure.
Because I was representing the company and all of that. I loved all of that. But then I never really put a lot of thought consciously about what was happening at home, right? So my ex-wife was pretty unhappy because I was never there.
Yeah.
She was raising my 2 kids. I barely knew my daughter, to be honest. I think my son, I was just because the timing when he was born, I got to spend more time with him, but less with my daughter.
Yeah.
And so I just felt like my life just started feeling kind of like off. I think that's where it started. And after I closed the deal, I got really sick. And I didn't really know exactly what it was. I got things like, for example, I always had a headache. I got like motion sick, really easily. And it got to the point where if you and I were talking, and you said something and it was just too overwhelming, I just shut off. I would shut down.
Brain fog or just
brain fog. I couldn't really follow you.
Wow.
And sometimes I would have to excuse myself from conversations. I started hiding a lot from
Understood.
meeting other people. And this was a phase. It was not for 10 years.
Sure.
Shopping for a phase.
Sure.
Or maybe a span of 6 to 9 months. And I went to see a couple of doctors because I thought, well, maybe there's something wrong with me. And then my mom said me talk to a neurologist, talk to whatever. I spoke to all these doctors. And then one of them said, I think you are burnt out. And I was like, burnt out? That can't be. I didn't even know what burnt out was, to be honest.
Wow.
Because it was not in my lexicon. It was not something I
type A.
Type A.
$1 billion. I'll do type A.
Whatever,
Come on. I'm the guy.
Yeah.
Totally.
I know I'm not weak like that kind of thing, right?
Yeah.
And then I took a little bit of a pause and I started reflecting and I was just like, man, I am burnt out.
Yeah.
And I started feeling it in my body. I started meditating and I started becoming more aware that, something in my life didn't feel right. And I didn't know exactly what. So it took a while until I realized that I was meant to do something bigger than just working for a company, that it was something more entrepreneurial. I didn't know what it was. And I think I spent the next 6 to 8 years just toying with different ideas. I made a couple of investments in things that didn't work out. I really wanted out.
Yeah. So how'd you navigate that? How'd you finally get to the point of I'm out? This doesn't match for me. It's time. How did you get to that point?
So what happened is just fast forward to 2022, I think.
Yeah.
That's when GE was sort of splitting into these different groups, right? You remember it used to be a conglomerate.
I remember. I do. Yeah.
And then what came up for me was I was doing my work and there was all this noise, all this politics going around me. And I was just like, this place is horrible. I hate coming to work in this environment. I didn't really like it. Yeah. And then in hindsight, maybe I should have just waited it out because it was just the natural tension when things are about to change. People get really tense and there's just a lot of conflict and a lot of turmoil, a lot of positioning, right? Everybody's positioning for the next thing. But I just I stopped liking coming to work. And there was this startup that approached me and they're like, hey, you want to be CFO and Chief Development Officer? And I was just like, yeah.
You weren't worried about your identity of leaving with a big title at GE? Because I know I was vice president at Sony. I know that felt really good. What was it to your identity at that point, though? Because to be, in the corporate world, men look to you as ooh, he's an important, senior executive. Did that feel was that identity caught up with you at that point, or
I think I bought into the idea that this company that I was going to be the thing that was going to get me to the next level.
Gotcha.
I had a lot of stock options. I had, I have a really good salary, even though it was a startup. And I also felt that the plan seemed like really solid. And in hindsight, it wasn't. I mean, once I was in the kitchen, I was just like, oh my God.
All those stock options.
They are worthless. So I said, this seems like a very, like a good risk for me to take. And what's the worst that could happen? It doesn't work out. Either I'll go to another startup or I'll go back to corporate.
Right.
That's the way that.
But you took 8 years to get there. In your bio, when you talk about it, it took you 8 years from the moment you realize that something's off to actually take that leap.
Yes.
Why did it take 8 years?
That's scared.
Right.
I mean, that's it. I mean, most of us delay making decisions that feel aligned because we're scared. We don't have the clarity of what is it that we want. And therefore, because we don't have that clarity, anything that seems like it's good, we don't have a framework to analyze like why is it good for us and how to make that transition. So only when we get that clarity of what we really want and we embrace it, like this is who I am, this is what I do, and this is what I want, and you own it, then those transitions become a lot easier.
So for you, what did you like at that point? What did you know you wanted? Was it a dollar amount? Was it a feeling of peace? When you said you kind of knew you wanted to try something more entrepreneur, what did you discovered in those 8 years that gave you the confidence to finally take the job? Like, what did you learn about yourself and what you wanted?
I learned that at some point, when you get to a certain level in your career, I mean, we are pretty much all have the same skill sets and the same experience. And then some of us just maybe had a little bit of luck, or, we're better at selling ourselves, or, we were aligned with the right group that actually got promoted. You know what I'm talking about.
There's definitely, I told you in the beginning of this conversation, I'm a great real estate. I'm highly skilled, and I was fortunate to be at the right time. Correct. It's like a set of waves. It's a set of waves. If you miss the set of waves, you have to wait for the next set of waves.
Correct.
But if you're lucky, you get a set of waves and you can actually do something with that set. A lot of surfers, they miss the wave because they're not in the right position. They didn't have the knowledge, the skill, the capital at the right time. So it's absolutely things have to go just right for that to work.
1,000%. So I just felt like my wave was not the right one. And I just kept paddling and paddling and paddling, waiting for it. And it just didn't work out. And then at some point I was just like, this place is a mess. Probably anything outside is probably about the same.
Right.
So it made the opportunity cost. It lowered the opportunity cost for me to say, yeah, I can do something else. And then I jumped.
So good.
Yeah.
I had a very similar, when I left Sony, I went to go work for a .com during the internet time. My company was on the cover of Time magazine as one of the 10 most important internet companies. It was like Google, and my company was on there.
Yeah.
It was called Della and James. So I left Sony to go work for, and they gave me a ton of stock options. I was the head of business development. They flew me around the world. I had Kleiner Perkins behind me, 50 million from Kleiner Perkins, and I forget who the second company was. The sexiest thing, I would show my friends the cover of Time magazine, go, I'm here. And that the same thing happened.
Yeah.
It didn't work out, but it was a great experience to actually go ahead and do that.
Yeah, I mean, I don't renege on the experience at GE. I think GE was a great company.
Yeah.
I still have a lot of friends that I'm in touch with. And I am who I am because of my experience at GE. So how could I not honor that?
Yeah.
That's just part of my journey.
So you obviously have gone this journey where you really became empowered. You want to help the next generation to realize, after your corporate experience, what's real and what's fake, what to really aim for, what to stay away from. When I read your website, it's like you have 4 quadrants basically, but it's this idea that so many people are chasing the wrong thing, in your opinion. You talk about vanity metrics. Like some people are looking at gross sales versus net profit.
1,000%. That's the number one problem that I see with most entrepreneurs. And it comes up actually when we're doing onboarding. And I asked him, okay, what's your BHAG? A BHAG, be hairy, audacious goal.
Yes.
And for example, my BHAG is I want to help 10,000 entrepreneurs scale their businesses without the grind, and so that they can make more impact in their life.
That's huge.
That's my BHAG. And I said, what's your BHAG?
Right.
Oh, I want to make $10 million for 3 years. I'm like, but that's not a BHAG. That's a goal, right? what's your BHAG? And then they can't articulate it.
Right.
And then that's where I know that I have to just take a couple of steps back with them and start from scratch. It's like, okay, what moves you? What's your big why? And start asking those questions so that we can get clear and we can get more aligned. Because when you're more aligned, it just becomes easier. You know, like you're more clear, you have more clarity on what needs to be done and what actions need to be taken and what you need to prioritize in your business and in your life.
In my first interviews, usually with someone who's coming to me for some help with fulfillment and money, the first thing I ask them, it's very similar to what you're saying. I'll be like, imagine if I invited you to my house, but I didn't give you my address. And I said, just come meet me at 5 o'clock at my house, and you had no address. And how would that work out for you if you didn't know? He goes, I couldn't get there.
Exactly.
And I said, that's how you're running your life.
Yeah.
Because without a plan, you can say $10 million net worth. You can make up all these numbers. But if you don't have clarity with a plan and why that number is important, you're wasting your time. So I'm a big fan of what you're saying. And I find about 89 to 90% of the people, men particularly, are worse than women. They always go to their net worth, which is really the vanity metric, as opposed to how much does it cost to live the life you want to live, and annual income between your active income at work and your passive income. And it sounds like you do the same thing. Let me ask you a question, because this happens all the time. When your client says, I don't know what I want, I don't know my purpose, you know, I run it through these 4 dimensions of wealth and the 4 Ps. So when they say, I don't know my BHAG, I don't know anything, I just want to make $2 million, $10 million, or 2x my company, what's your response? How do you respond to that?
Well, I explained to them that just having that clarity is what's going to give them the unlock to the next level in their business and in their life.
But what if they don't have the clarity? A lot of people I find don't know how to kind of.
Then they wouldn't be my client.
What's that?
They wouldn't be my clients. You know,
Okay.
like, I mean, I like to work with clients who are motivated to go into this journey, because otherwise then I feel like I'm not aligned with what I'm doing with them.
Mm-hmm.
And I have to, like, for example, my big why is making sure that I work with people who have a big why, because that's the way that I'm creating more impact, by working through them. You know
Makes
what I mean?
sense. One question, you said you wanted 10,000 people to become these self-embodied. What does that mean to you? If I see you in 1 or 2 or 3 years from now, and 10,000 people have gone through your program and they got to the next thing, what does that mean to you for your mission?
Well, that means that I'm actually doing something that is aligned with my own mission, because I believe that we are here in this world to actually leave it better than we found it.
I love that.
Okay.
That's great.
Yeah.
And that makes total sense.
And what that means for you is different than what it means for me. But when you talk about it and when I talk about it, we know when that feels true and when it doesn't.
Yes. But if you have any clients that can't find the why that makes them cry within their 4 dimensions of wealth, send them to our workshop. Because we open them up and then we can send them back to you to do some of the coaching work.
No, I mean, I do. You know, what ends up happening in actual terms is because they know what I'm about, right? So eventually they're like, help me. So what we do is I do a lot of like sort of like meditation, like, and that sounds weird because I'm a finance guy. So I guess I'm not supposed to do that, but that's what I do, because we're whole humans, right? We have different dimensions to our humanity, and making sure that we are in alignment with who we want to become and like what we want to accomplish. It's as important as hitting your revenue numbers or hitting your profit numbers or having enough cash to run your business. It's as important. In fact, I would say it's even more important.
Why do you think it's maybe even more important? What's your thought?
Because everything else depends on you having the sort of the clarity and the alignment and the fulfillment in your life. Because if you're unfulfilled, eventually you just don't want to do it anymore. How
many people do you see? They chase, and they get there, and like with your story, you chase, you succeeded. You $1 billion a year of infrastructure projects, and you left.
Yeah.
And you had health issues and like all that. And that's so common. So what you're saying is so basic, but I've done 100 podcasts and you are the most closely aligned with me. I'm fulfilled.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That means a lot.
I've had all kinds of amazing entrepreneurs, and they've got a piece of it. But the way you're articulating is very much the way I see it for Fulfillionaire. So it's fun. It's fun to see that.
It's out of conviction.
Yes.
Okay? This is my mantra, the way that I run my life, and hopefully this way of managing also my business and this message that I'm putting out there is also attracting the right people towards me as well.
Let me ask you a couple. I know you also consult for companies, not just individuals, and you talk a lot about like this idea that, again, a lot of companies, you start to jump into them and they're stuck on their revenue, but they're not looking really at their margin. What other things do you see that companies, what are the lies or maybe, I don't want to say the cancers, but like the common things you see in companies where maybe they're spending too much time focusing on the wrong metric? What would that be?
Why I created my company in the current format, because I'm the scaling CFO, right? Because I started doing like scaling advisory, and I was also doing like CFO advisory. I was doing both. And I realized that a lot of the clients that were coming to me, they wanted to scale their business, but they needed to clean up their business first, because you can't scale chaos.
Right.
If you have a
I love that. You can't scale chaos.
I mean, you could.
You can. People do.
Could, but I don't recommend it.
Yeah,
right?
yeah.
So the way that I think about it is you can't scale a business that you're not 100% confident that when you scale it, it's going to make money. Because what's going to happen is you're going to grow. Okay. You're going to grow, not scale. You're going to grow to 2, 3, maybe 4 million. And it's going to feel like a grind, right? Because like you're like always trying to get more revenue to get a little bit more cash so that you can continue to pay your people and maybe pay yourself a little bit, right?
Yeah.
I mean, you've heard that before, right?
Of course.
Yeah, it's a common problem. And then what's happened is eventually that system, you reach the entitlement of that process and the process breaks. Something happens. There's a cash crisis. There's a health crisis. There's an existential crisis that happened in your life. And you're like, I don't want to run this company anymore. And then you go back to the drawing board and you're like, you start firing people. You're like, we're not taking more clients. We're going to start small and we're going to redo it again. Have you heard that story before?
Many times.
Okay. So, and this is what happens when you don't have that clarity of growing the business in a way that is sustainable, knowing your profit, your unit economics, your cash flow, not only like 3 days from now or what's in the account today, but like knowing it like 90 days from now, 190 days from, with less precision, 180 days from now.
Yeah.
Because then you can actually you can make decisions today that would prevent you from being in trouble 90 days from now.
And do you also think within companies, you said the individual needs to be as clear with their financial plan as what they want to do. Same with companies, that clarity of mission, you think that's critical as the financial metrics you're talking about?
1,000%, but I have a very founder-centric view. So the founder needs to be clear, and the founder needs to be clear whether he wants to be in the business or not in the business, right? He can be the visionary or she, right? It doesn't matter, but you need to make a clear decision, right? If you want to be an operator, be it.
Yeah.
You can't be like complaining about like, oh my God, I hate my employees. So if you do, then just be the visionary.
Right.
That's fine.
Right.
We'll find you the right CEO. We'll find the right COO to run the business so that you can do what you like to do best.
100%.
Yeah.
I want to ask you a question. We've talked about, I think I told you earlier about my 4 dimensions of wealth. I look at it as 1-dimensional wealth is what your financial planner tells you. What you and I are talking about is 4-dimensional wealth, which is your purpose wealth, your people wealth, your presence wealth, and your play wealth. You've already told me your purpose wealth. I got that pretty clear. I get your people wealth. Your family sounds like that's core for you. What I want to ask you about, it sounds like you've got time pretty well in presence. It sounds like you're meditating. A question for you is play wealth. Most people talk about time wealth, right? They talk about like time efficiency and time management. I'm not a big proponent of time wealth because I think, to your point, it's like we can always be more efficient, but if you don't have the other things, the time doesn't matter. I think like presence wealth is key for time. I'm sorry, but on play wealth, most people think they don't have time to play. And I kind of feel like if you're not playing, then you're really not in your presence, you're enjoying aliveness. And I feel like it's congruent to what you're saying. I'm just curious, do you ever talk about with your clients about play wealth?
To some degree.
Because people think play is like, I'll play when I get rich, or I'll play when the company, there's no time to play.
That's what you mean, yeah.
No, but I've actually in play wealth, like, are you doing as the CEO creative things? Are you playing the drums? Are you hosting? Are you doing things you love so that you're creative at work and that you really are staying centered as much as meditation? Have you ever thought about that play wealth?
Well, I mean, I'm going to tell you for myself, like I'm a musician, and my thing is if I'm not playing music, it's because there's something wrong with me. I know that's my,
That's really
camera,
cool.
you know,
Yeah.
like if I don't feel like playing music, there's some kind of like a block in me. Cause that's my way of like, sort of like letting my emotions.
It's your flow.
And my flow. And
It's a spiritual practice.
I write music. I've written like over like 40 songs, on Spotify and whatnot. So that is my way of, you know, like you said, getting into the flow. Now for others, it doesn't have to be music. It doesn't have to be artistic. It could be like playing golf.
Totally.
It could be like, you know.
But I'm a big proponent of talking about play wealth. No, it's play wealth is really, really important.
Yeah, no, absolutely. Yeah.
Okay, Krishna says we have 2 minutes left. So
Nice.
you ready for the power? I'm going to fire questions at you. You ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. So let me ask you a question. Like when you see like today's signals of today's economy and you're the first phone call with you, what are most people, if you could give advice to the audience, like what do you see most entrepreneurs, most companies, what are they missing? Like from you can almost predict on the first phone call when they call you because they're in trouble, they're looking for help. What are the most common things that you're seeing?
Yes. So I will say 2 things. The first one is, actually I mentioned it before, most people are focused on revenues. And when you start like looking under the hood, you know, maybe their businesses are not as profitable.
Right. They're missing the margin.
They're missing the margin. They're missing the cash management piece. So that's one of the things that I want to get under control within 90 days of working together. And also just
Look at your margin, guys.
Yeah.
Stop talking about gross revenue. Stop bragging at parties. Just look at your margin.
Yeah. And like, and also I tell them, I don't know if you like this idea, but I tell them that imagine that when all of these people that listen to your show are probably, they own stocks.
Right.
Do you own stocks just to have them because you want to have them sit there, or do you want them to grow in value?
Right.
So what you should really be measuring is how much value you're creating in your company.
Yeah.
And that comes from profitability, right? Because I mean, in a very simplistic way, I mean, you can do it through a DCF analysis, but if you look at your EBITDA and you apply a multiple, you kind of know what your company's worth.
100%.
Right? So if you're always looking at that, that is a way healthier metric than any other thing.
That's really interesting.
Right?
Because it'll tell you how valuable you are.
Yes.
But also, are you creating the right margins?
Are you creating the right
Are you
margin?
creating the right margins and are you creating enough value?
And then also like understanding that a company that doesn't have the founder in the delivery is worth at least 1x more than if he or she was.
Really?
Yeah.
Why?
Because you don't need to. I mean, if you take the like for example, in your company, like if I took you out of the company, would your company tank? Will the profits suffer?
You tell me. What's the answer to that question? I don't know.
In some cases, the answer is yes.
Right.
In other cases, probably not, because you can probably just bring somebody that is as good. It depends. It's situational, right?
It is situational.
It is situational, but I would say that if you actually set it up so that you're not even needed, okay, and you're not in the delivery, that in and of itself, it already has the value that the maximum potential value that it could have, because it's already running without you.
So you're saying you actually created more valuable. Once you get out of your own way and replace yourself, you've created a more valuable company.
Yeah, because you're eliminating that uncertainty.
Oh, I like that.
You eliminated the uncertainty of like, oh.
Do you know that, guys? Try to get yourself where you're replaceable. It's actually, I know it's against your instinct.
It's a valuation issue.
It's a valuation issue. Do it for a valuation issue. Hey, if you could sit down with any entrepreneurs listening today, and they had 3 metrics they wanted to come to, like, help me. What are the 3 things I should focus on most to grow my company? I heard you say margin. And if there's even some personal ones in life, 3 things that they should do, either items, situations, margins, numbers, to grow in the next 5 years. They're a young entrepreneur. I know you're going to tell me margins 1 year, 3. What are the?
Well, I mean, I like to look at EBITDA.
Okay.
Because of value, because it's an easy way to understand how much value you're creating. But I will say that one that is also super important is what is your cash burn.
Yeah.
Okay. Because I'll tell you this, 82% of the bankruptcies here in the US, they happen because of poor cash management, not because of a bad funnel or a bad strategy. It's literally just cash management. So you need to manage cash. We one of our jobs as CEO is making sure that we have cash to get the company, where it needs to go.
Yeah.
So cash, definitely, EBITDA. And I would say one that is not, some people that have been playing with ads, etc., they understand it better, but understanding your LTV, your lifetime value of a client, the gross profit of your lifetime value of a client divided by your client acquisition cost. If that number is above 3, you're good. If it's above 5, you're crushing it. Invest more in marketing.
Interesting.
Right?
That's really good to know.
Simple like mnemonic, it's like, yes. If you know that, and you can actually, like, when you're closing the numbers and you look at that, it's like, wow, it's like 5 to 1. Let's invest more. That's easy, right?
That's great.
Yeah.
More money for advertising, more money
Yes.
to create, but you create more.
Yeah,
more
just throw more at it. And then eventually what happens, you're going to get diminishing returns closer to 3, and then you have to redo your marketing funnels and all that. But yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
I would just keep talking about it. I'm pretty sure I'm going to be my last question for you.
Yeah.
Tomorrow your son graduates from high school.
Yes.
If you were to sit down with a father and a son and give them advice on how to succeed in the world with all the new things of AI, changing markets, large companies are going to get built, companies are going to get crushed, all this disruption, and you're sitting down with your son, what advice are you going to give your son? I am giving that advice, by the way, to him. And I brought him, he's working with me over the summer, and I'm teaching him, how to do strategy, how to do marketing, how to code and all of that. So he's already getting a lot of mentoring from me. But the one thing that I will say is the number one thing to invest is in your own clarity. When you don't get bogged down on AI is going to disrupt. There's going to be the next AI. There's going to be the next technology, the next thing. But when you're clear on who you are, and you are confident in your ability to get to where you need to be, and you're clear on our mission, everything else just clarifies, opens up, and it becomes more attainable. Because in the end, when you're clear about the goal, it doesn't matter how you get there. There's always people that are willing to help you, so long as you're clear where you're going. If someone in the audience says, I'd love to get clearer, this sounds great. Is there one book, one podcast, or is there something you'd send someone to? If a student's coming to you, I want to get clearer. Do you have a favorite spot? You take them to a religion?
Well, I have my 2 or 3 books that I always recommend.
Which ones?
Think and Grow Rich.
Of course.
Yeah.
Napoleon Hill.
The Autobiography of a Yogi.
Of course.
Which is the one that actually helped me. Yogananda is my guru.
Yeah.
And I would say the third one is probably a newer one, is A Changed Mind. David Bayer, he was my coach for a while. And I think he does a really great job at summarizing all of the stuff that is out there into just one compact message in it.
David's great.
David's great. Yeah.
Cruz, I so appreciate your time. I'm glad you came to Austin, even though you have to jump back to your son's graduation. I'm so glad you came out. And thank you for sharing the time. What I really felt in this new format is I could feel the spirit of brotherhood of 2 people who really care about people to truly find fulfillment and money and bring it together. And I just honor and appreciate you and your spirit. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much.
Thanks.